What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another daily drop brought to you by TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner. Joining me as he always does, it's our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ, we're here for yet another UNC basketball-related drop. And in this one, we're going to be focusing on what each of the four returning Tar Heels on the basketball side are focusing on this summer in terms of developing their game and just things to work on going into the new season. I know this is some pretty well-sourced stuff as well, AJ, so I'm looking forward to kind of hearing your thoughts on some of this stuff and obviously what some of these guys are focusing on. So I'm going to separate. There's four guys on here: Armando Bacot, Jalen Washington, RJ Davis, and Seth Trimble. Let's just separate it in terms of forwards and guards. So we'll start with forwards. We'll start with Bacot. We'll start with Washington. Give me a little insight and give us a little insight into what a guy like Armando Bacot and a guy like Jalen Washington are kind of focusing on in terms of their game this summer and developing, because it's too contrasting. Jalen Washington, younger in his career, and then Bacot, a guy who's been around, a little bit more established. So I would assume what they're focusing on probably varies a little bit as well.
Well, there's no doubt. Armando is already really strong. So that's Jalen's mission, is to get strong and learn how to play through contact. And I'll go ahead and start with Jalen since I just said that. Yeah, he's to get stronger. And that's right from Hubert's mouth. When I asked him early February, what does Jalen need to do to get on the court more? The first thing he said was get stronger. Mm-hmm. And the second thing, which is play through contact and play with contact. It's not just contact when you make your move. It's contact before you make your move, which is part of getting stronger. One of the defensive agendas for big men is to push guys out. And if you could be really effective at pushing a guy out who's very comfortable, let's say with a 4 to 6 foot jump hook, and suddenly you make it a 6 to 8 foot jump hook, that changes things for a lot of players. And so he needs to be strong on the block, strong getting position, strong making himself available, strong battling for position on the other end of the floor, strong boxing out and holding his box out, strong in how to deal with the box out, strong in all those areas, and then be strong playing through contact, get a lot of plus ones instead of going to the line for two. And here's the thing. If you get plus ones every time, you're occasionally going to have a 3-point play. If you don't convert and you have to shoot 2 free throws, too often you're going to make one of 2, and you get a lot fewer points. That's a difference of 2 points sometimes. So the plus one was the key. Plus one was Tyler Hansbrough. Well, the reason he scored so many damn points. Because he scored one foul, because he played through it. So Jalen needs to work on those things. A lot of people have visions of him being a stretch 4. I think Carolina thinks he could be that, but also as a 5, maybe a modern 5, a 5 that moves around and is comfortable facing the basket. But if you're going to be a 5 in any capacity, it's like goal line D and goal line offense. At some point, you got to be able to handle that aspect of the game as a 5-man, and that's what Jalen is working on. And there's some skills stuff, obviously, as well. But I think for him, it's getting stronger, and it's getting stronger while doing all those things. It's not just lifting weight and all that kind of junk and raw eggs and everything. It's doing that while playing every day. So he's developing his body as he's developing his game in concert with the body. And that's also playing against a bunch of the returning players and battling Armando every day. Mm-hmm. He didn't have the summer last year. So this is a big, big off season for him to really do a lot of things with his game that he hasn't really been able to do since the summer after his sophomore year in high school, really. Yeah. Because the summer after his junior year in high school, he got banged up. Yeah, he didn't have the whole AAU season. And then last year, he didn't do anything really in the off season, some limited stuff. So that's the focus for him. Yeah. As far as Armando goes, it's a lot more about refinement. We saw a lot of things added to his postgame last year in the first half of the year, and then it was taken away the second half of the year by opposing teams. And Carolina was an accomplice there because it couldn't do enough to pull those doubles out and force teams to defend Armando one-on-one. If he's defended one-on-one, a lot of the post moves are there, but he's going to try to extend his game some. I know that Hubert said a couple of years ago Armando was shooting 1,000 threes a week. I don't think Armando needs to be a three-point shooter. I don't think that there's any value to that for this basketball team. But the 12 to 15-footer, yes. I think if he could hit that baseline 12, if he could drag himself out and hit that baseline 12 to 15-footer if he could be in a situation where, let's say they're doing some high-low, and he's out there with Jalen Washington or with Withers or whoever, or even Zayden high, and Armando finds himself at the high post, and the defender drags off to drop down to the other big, and Armando's right there with the 13, 14 footer. He's got to pop it.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to be able to hit that. If he can do that, that's a layer to his game that didn't really exist consistently last year. And it's really going to force – it's going to stress defenses big time. It's going to often force them to guard him a little bit more there. And he could find himself, if Jalen learns how to get positioned more consistently, he could pop something down to him for a bucket. If you have a high-low game that works well, it's huge. You remember last year there were times when Pete Nance and Armando Bacot worked really well together in the high-low, and the team was good. The team 2 years ago, when Brady and Armando started working in sync with a lot of the high-low stuff, that team took off. So that was one of the reasons why they took off. So I think that that's really important for Armando. Plus, he could show that to the league. Because for him, he just needs an opportunity in the league and to see where his game is. And David thinks he could be one of those guys that's sort of an off-the-ball big, the dunking big spot that if you're playing sort of outside the lane and you're there as a putback rebounder and a breakdown dunker, that kind of thing. But if you could add that 12 to 15 footer to your game, that's huge. It will make this team a lot better, and it'll make his NBA potential much more viable. Agreed.
Yeah, big offseason for Jalen Washington. And, it's a big offseason for everybody because every player wants to continue to develop. And I do agree. If you can add that to Armando's game, he would just be so much harder to guard, and he's already pretty dang good. So imagine him with a
it would be fun.
Yeah. Be a lot funner to play. It'd be a lot harder.
It'd be a lot fun.
Yeah, it really would be.
I totally dive bomb you there. So
no, you're good. I mean,
but you'll totally agree with this. It'll be really fun talking to him about it.
Yeah,
because he will. If he hits 2 15-footers in a game, he's gonna make it. I tell you, and he's gonna go all into it. And he'll have something funny to say. So the more that Armando is fun after games, the better for us because he's such a great quote. And also from a personal standpoint, just seeing any kid develop is always great. But if he hits 2 15-footers in a game, there's going to be a dynamic quote coming out of there.
Oh, no doubt about it. And he would just be so much harder to guard. And I think it would make that Carolina just that much better when you got a player already as good as he is, adding that to his game. We'll focus on the guards returning. That's RJ Davis, Seth Trimble next before we wrap this one up. Same kind of story, right, AJ? Got a guy in Trimble, didn't play a ton last year, did play a little bit, so he did get a taste of college, basketball. And I think the biggest thing for him is improving that offensive game. And then RJ, it's a fascinating offseason too because he's moving off the ball. So, yeah, I mean, you kind of think RJ, a guy that's been around the program, not maybe as many things to work on, but when you're moving to a different position, there's a lot of things you have to work on. And I'm sure there's a lot of things RJ will be focusing on to change out of his game, and off the ball movement probably being a big one he's going to have to improve on. He is a guy who's just not going to have the ball in his hands anymore. So talk to me a little bit about RJ and Seth Trimble and what they're working on.
We'll start with RJ, and some of this changed when they went ahead and took Cadeau and RJ agreed to slide over to the 2 spot. I would imagine when he's working on his game and he's got a student manager passing to him or whatever, that he's doing a lot of swings from the point to either the wing on the right side or the left side. Catch the swing, square, and shoot. A lot of that. Or the drive and kick out, the flip out, catch and shoot. He's probably working on a ton of that stuff because so many of his three-point attempts last year were after the dribble. Or he'd have to dribble. He would get a swing maybe from Caleb because nothing was there, and he'd have to dribble once or twice. He'd let it go. Now with Cadeau, he's going to find you. So you got to catch and shoot right away. And I also think that will make him more viable to the next level, be it in the United States or overseas somewhere. Being able to catch and release quickly will be to RJ's advantage, especially as a 6'2" guard. So those are the things that I would imagine that he's working at a lot. I know that previously it was simply a matter of game management and finding people. That was going to be one of his points of emphasis because he thinks he can play the point in the NBA. So he has to work on finding guys and getting the ball to them when they're found, not a split second after they're found, which is sometimes the difference between a great distributor and an average distributor. But I think right now that's the individual thing. As far as the team thing goes, he just needs to play the two with Cadeau at the point all the time. Like, I don't think they need to go against each other a whole lot. Certainly when the pros are there, they should always be on the court together with Cadeau at the point, RJ at the two, and just start working it now, working on that chemistry now, working out all the kinks, figuring out each other's game, get used to how he gets you the ball, and he'll be much more ready to roll on November 5th or 6th, whatever it was when they play Radford. So that's it for RJ. He can have an enormous year this year if he's always ready to catch and shoot. I think he could hit 38, 40% of his threes and have a monster season this year.
Agreed.
And as far as Seth goes, he's got to work on his handle some. It doesn't have a great handle. He has a really good handle, but I think last year we didn't get to see enough of that because for some reason Hubert had him at the two sometimes. I never understood why when he was in the game, why he wasn't on the ball. No, he wasn't guarding the perimeter. His shooting left a lot to be desired. He worked on it a ton during the season. I used to see him after games out there working on it, working really hard, getting a killer sweat, shooting the ball. And it was pretty solid, but it's totally different when you're in a game as opposed to shooting in a gym an hour after the game ends and there's only a handful of lights on. So I think the handle and getting something out of the handle, not dribbling into traffic, not dribbling into chaos, using the dribble to actually create something and force defensive movement is a key for him. But absolutely, he needs to shoot the ball better, period. He needs to be able to hit that open three every once in a while, because one of the things we pushed about this team is when you look at the composition of the roster, opposing defenses should have to guard all five guys on the floor. So Trimble needs to be one of those guys too. You don't want him to be a guy that when he goes in, suddenly defenses can start, hedging on other guys, cheating a little bit on other guys because they don't respect Trimble's ability to score. He doesn't have to shoot 40% from three. But he's got to shoot, at least 32% from three, which would be an upgrade significantly, especially given the amount of time he's probably going to play. So that's for him. I think if those two things occur, then I think he has a chance to be a really good backup, and they may not miss Simeon Wilcher, at least in the 23-24 season.
Yeah, agreed. I think Trimble, agreed. I think the offensive side is really what he needs to improve on, and I think he will. I think he will probably more than likely take strides going into next season, because it is tough coming in, especially with how much Carolina struggled last year, lack of rotation, and a guy coming in as a freshman playing that kind of point guard position. It's always usually a bit of an adjustment. So I would expect him to be improved this year. And then, I think RJ's the one I'm most fascinated to see, man, because we just haven't seen a lot of him off the ball at Carolina. And when Carolina's been a better team when he's been on the ball in his career at North Carolina. So him moving off the ball, Cadeau kind of sliding into that point guard position. Does it take RJ a little bit of time to get going? Does he struggle a little bit more this year? Is he a little bit less consistent shooting the ball because he's not running the show and he's the guy that, hey, you're the two guard, you're the bucket getter, go get us 20 a night? Is he ready to take that step? I think he has it in his bag. I think he has it in his game, but it is different playing a two than it is playing the one. I mean, it just is. It's just a different role in a lot of ways. So I think he's the one I'm most interested to see how he kind of adjust to that moving into going into the season. Cause I think he'll do fine, but I think there also it might be a little bit of a learning curve in the beginning. It might not be, it's just game one, he's just going all cylinders. It might be something that he improves on as, maybe in November going into December, and then you see the best of him in January and he kind of takes off after that. So very big offseason ahead for all four of these guys in a lot of different ways.
That's why I don't put any stock into like what they look like now.
Yeah.
I know people are asking, what do they look like right now? We want some insight on how things are going this summer. I don't think it matters.
No.
Because the season's in 6 months, 5 months.
Yeah.
They're all going to be different then.
Yeah.
So right now is when right now you're going to go through the learning curve process, all of them. They're all working on certain things that are nowhere near as refined as they'll be in 5 months. So that's why I've told some people on our boards, look, we're not going to sneak in and watch a lot of this stuff. We're not going to ask how such and such is looking right now. We'll wait.
Mm-hmm.
And if we get access to the players this summer, perhaps in July, those would be good questions to ask then. But I would also take them with a grain of salt because they'd be in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
You know, some of the kids told us last July that Pete Nance could run like a gazelle up and down the court, and that wasn't the case.
Didn't see it, no.
So that's why I would pump the brakes on a lot of that stuff. And in due time, what they're supposed to be, they will be. And that's also why I believe that Elliott and RJ at the 1-2 now, as much as possible. So when they do hit the season, especially with that net podcast we did about how difficult that is to manage, to deal with, especially if you have a couple early losses. They can't afford early losses. They got to go out to the Bahamas and play tough games. Those guys got to be in sync early.
Yeah.
Those are much bigger games now than they used to be because of the way the net scrunches your performance and weighs way too heavily in the first part of the season. So that to me is what's most important. Just go out there, do what you got to do, make a ton of mistakes, take time to gel, but eventually gel and do so by November, and they'll be in good shape.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see how these guys look come this season and just see the improvements that they make, because you would expect everybody to improve in some way, shape, or form. And we'll see what happens as the season gets closer and eventually starts come November. It is a ways away, but yeah, it'll creep us up on us fast like it always does. I can guarantee you that for sure. So I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Another daily drop brought to you by TarHeelIllustrated.com. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell as well, so you know every single time we upload. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.